We are here today to announce that the Justice Department has secured felony guilty pleas from the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance.
Actually, it's Binance.
Binance.
Binance. Largest virtual.
Binance.
Binance. And let me be clear. It's Binance.
Binance.
Binance. Council has discussed crypto regulations and legislations at length, and we have come to the conclusion that instead of regulating, we are going to ape a fat bag each into laptop and pump it to over $1,300,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 market cap. Let's fucking go, crackheads.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Morning Coffee. I got my coffee locked and loaded, ready to go, because we have to talk about why the heck the market isn't moving. Why isn't anything happening? What is blocking the market this time? And isn't it all a little bit too late, all this movement out of Bitcoin and so on? Let's talk about this, and also let's see what's going on with our favorite altcoins. There are also a couple of things moving there, so make sure to stay all the way through. So, good morning to each and every one of you. I hope you are doing well, and we are here in the Bitcoin chart, and we had this really nice downward sloping channel until it broke to the upside, faked out to the downside, and now it's basically performing some kind of a weird clinging on retest here on the top of the channel. Unknown yet if it is capable of breaking finally through and pumping, but this could be happening. I think there's a lot of FUD holding Bitcoin back right now at the moment, and we're going to go into a little bit why or what is happening here. But first of all, once things don't really make sense in let's say in the short time frames, the long time frames usually give you a better clue, and I think this looks pretty good, right? So on the weekly, if you say, okay, we still have the structure, then we see the weekly closed outside of this structure, and now the retest, which is still 5 days going on, so we don't know how this candle looks. Maybe it's a big straight red line back into the flag, then okay, then we had ourselves a multi-day fake out, or we are going to retest here. So let's wait for the weekly candle to also close, and then maybe to continue. I think looks pretty much like a breakout at the moment. So if we were to close this above 108,000, I would consider this as complete retest and then expect the next week to be green. So just from a technical standpoint, I would expect that to happen. And then if that happens, and if we confirm, and if that was the breakout of our bull flag, then I would expect 135,000 on the way. But these things take time, so here we see it clearly, right? How this looks in the weekly, way better than in the daily, I would say. But even in the daily, we can technically see what's going on, right? If you would say that's a little bit of a failed retest here, but still okay-ish, right? In a weekly, it makes more sense. So what's happening? One thing that I would say for sure is a little bit pressing on the market is again the tariff topic. Trump announces steep tariffs on 14 countries starting 1st of August, so less than 22 days or whatever, no, 23 days. These are supposed to start, and Trump threatens extra 10% tariffs on countries that align with BRICS policies. So basically, that goes clearly against the BRICS nations. So no more bricks building once or when Trump is in office. Trump administration on the other side teases more trade deals, but shifting tariff deadlines raise new questions. So the tariff topic, or the tariff FUD, is back on the table. And then we see also Japan calls tariffs regrettable as nations scramble to deal with new deadline. So here also we see one: Australia unexpectedly holds policy rate as it awaits more inflation data. I'd say a little bit of FUD there going on in the global markets, and maybe we'll see some little bit red days, even though that the markets are breaking out to new all-time highs at the very moment. So that's not a negative thing. And we will come to what that really means, right? Because there is the short term where things dump in like days, but then there is weeks and months, right? And I think one of the things that really kept people going on the weekend, and also maybe yesterday still, was this whale wallet action, right? So we had 14, or at least 14 whale wallets from the Satoshi-era waking up and moving billions in Bitcoin, supposedly moving. But now we see that nothing of that has been sold. We see here, in fact, 8 billion BTC whale move is likely an address upgrade with no signs of selling as per Arkham. So this is something where we seriously have to ask ourselves, why is this a reason for FUD? It only means that, I don't know how many, 50,000 Bitcoin, so roughly the amount that Germany sold a couple of months ago or a year ago, is activated, has never been moved in the wallet, so it didn't contribute to the free flow of Bitcoin, but it is within the 21 million Bitcoin. And if they were to sell, then, or if this whale was to sell, then, okay, then short term it moves the price, but long term there is no consequence. You only can dilute it once. So I don't know why things like this always are so fuddish, because I think people fear that if this whale after so many years comes back, and probably it's a whale miner or something like that, well then Satoshi might come back, right? But even then I ask, does it really matter? Even if Satoshi comes back, even if Satoshi moves Bitcoin, and even if Satoshi sells Bitcoin, it doesn't matter anymore. The Pandora's box is open, Bitcoin's out, and it's only a sentiment thing. And then probably the market crashes, and then probably people take a while to figure out that actually nothing has changed in the fundamentals, and even Satoshi can't stop it anymore. So why is this a piece of fun? It doesn't matter, right? And then I think why it matters is people, they believe they still think in terms of value in US dollars, because we are looking, there is no other Bitcoin to compare it in, and we don't have the prices of everything in Bitcoin. Of course, if you would only have a chart that is Bitcoin, it's looking like this, right? Because Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin measured in Bitcoin will look like this. But assets measured in Bitcoin, they will look like this, right? They're going down in price, so that's great. But what people don't understand is or in my opinion, is when these things are happening, the price temporarily dips. It's not a problem, because we're looking at US dollar. If you have the chart of cars, houses, whatever, the chart is still continuously going down. And the ultimate end game is not at some point selling your 0.1 Bitcoin or your 1 Bitcoin or your 10 Bitcoin for money, but rather reach reach a world in which you buy the thing straight with that Bitcoin, right? And where you only need a couple of Satoshis to buy your car, technically, right? That would be the end game, because then you have to think, okay, if I reach a world where I can buy in Bitcoin, then everyone in that world has to have Bitcoin. And if I have a lot of Bitcoin right now and I reach a state where everyone in the world has to have some Bitcoin, then I can make the calculation with 8 to 9 billion people fighting over Satoshis, right? So, short-term goals, fine, right? If you would have 100 Bitcoin, of course you sell 1 or 2 Bitcoin or 5 Bitcoin for lifestyle chips, right? But people think, oh, when it reaches 1 million, I'm going to sell my 1 Bitcoin, then I'm a millionaire in that struggling fiat currency. I don't know if that's the right viewpoint, right? But anyways, adoption is going on. While people are FUDing, while people are a little bit negative, but we cannot forget Bitcoin is sitting at 108,000 right now, despite FUD and maybe not the greatest sentiment. We cannot forget that the adoption is rapidly moving forward, and here we see Standard Chartered issued 1 week ago global research on digital assets, Bitcoin, H2 of 2025 outlook, further upside. ETF inflows and corporate treasury buying of Bitcoin are set to exceed the Q2 level, which was 245,000 Bitcoin, in Q3 and Q4. So the view is, okay, once the summer gap, the summer dull is over, money is flowing into BTC and more through the ETFs and more than in the last 3 months. I think that is true, and I think bullish. Potential Q3 drivers include Fed Chair Powell's early replacement and passage of the US stablecoin bill. I agree with that as well. If we were to get a rate cut early on, then I think the markets might explode. In Q4, we expect the market to brush off concerns about the BTC halving cycle. Exactly, this is another one, right? Everyone is, like, I will show you an example in a second, or actually right now. Everyone is so focused on this BTC halving cycle 4-year narrative just because of the very small sample size probably being wrong all the time. Now, it's like once something that the whole population believed suddenly comes out to not true, and everyone grasps for the new narrative. It takes a while, right? So look at this here. The comment for that person is, for this bull, BTC still has half a year to print some macro bullish candles. Who says that? I mean, what if we go until the end of the year and then we print the macro bullish candles 3 months too late? What then? Who says there's only half a year, right? So if global liquidity expands and the rates are coming down later than expected, then probably that cycle is driven. And if you believe that cycle is driven by M2, then why is there only a couple of months left? Of course, if we want that narrative to be true, that every time exactly then we are topping out, okay, maybe, right? Maybe. But yeah, here are the concerns of the halving cycle. So we continue to see BTC rising to around 135,000 by end of Q3 is the prediction here, and to 200,000 by end of Q4. That is the research of Standard Chartered. Okay, 135,000 is our target, is the flag target. Is also the target that we had since a long time on this channel. And of course, I want Bitcoin to go to 200K as well, right? I don't know if it will happen though. By end of Q4. So that would be still in line with what that other person said, right? Regarding the cycle. But I think the summer gap right now is really in full force, right? Everyone's on holidays, spending money there, and so on, right? Also, retail will come back after the holidays are over. So, H2 topside to show that the Bitcoin halving cycle is dead. Okay, we expect Bitcoin BTC to print new all-time highs in H2. But that growing ETF and corporate treasury flows, as well as US policy and regulatory developments. Thanks to increased investor flows, we believe BTC has moved beyond previous dynamic, whereby prices fell 18 months after the halving cycle, which would have led to price declines in September, October 2025. So the halving cycle is out of whack, right? That's for sure. So let's welcome some people here in the chat before we move on. Let's welcome the rare hodlers. So thank you for each and everyone who's supporting me here all the time through your subscription to the rare hodler tier. If you want to support this channel, you can do that. Thank you, Trucking Hank. Thank you, Green Lantern, for being here supporting the channel at this moment, as well as Jasper and Anita. Good morning, Sven, as well. Anita says, I wonder if BTC had already topped, now waiting for alt and meme. Anita says, I pray alt and meme will sideway for 3-7 weeks more for accumulation, I guess. I don't think Bitcoin has already topped. I don't think so. And I've laid out the reasons many times on this channel. But let me show you what I mean. So going to the monthly, here's the monthly, here is the Bitcoin setup on the monthly, inverse head and shoulders, breakout, retest, complete continuation just happening. The breakout target is the same as the flag target, roughly 135,000. The TSI, the total, sorry, that's the RSI. Where's my TSI? That's not my TSI. Where's my TSI? There's it. The TSI, the true strength index, is not at the trend line top yet, right? The RSI is nowhere near over, actually it's very, very slightly overbought, but nothing like this. So I still expect the RSI to go something like this. The stochastic RSI is in full upswing after the bull cross that we called on this channel, but there is still months to go on this bull move unless we form even one more lower high here on this downtrend, which cannot predict, but the momentum is positive. So I would say more upside for Bitcoin, new all-time highs for Bitcoin coming in first, and then maybe the altcoins in a couple of months. Hey Troy Paris, also good to see you. I hope we are not top. I don't think so, as I just laid out. I just laid it out for you. I don't think this is the top. we need Trump to stabilize. Trump coin or the guy himself. I think this is our first institution-driven cycle. This is the first time that we are basically really looking hardcore at global M2 development. We do see, though, that Strategy announced another 4.2 billion to buy more Bitcoin. So they are releasing that as well. Some TA saying we had top, that scared me. Okay, so let me give you one more here. Where is it? Okay, here. Let me refresh that side also that we can say. So this is the bull market peak indicators. Sell at the top list from CoinGlass. It's free. You can look it up for yourself. Currently 0 of 30 most used and most common top indicators are flashing top. 0. Okay, it includes the pi cycle, the pure multiple, the Bitcoin rainbow chart, the ETF net outflows, ETF to BTC ratio, 2-year MA multiplier, the MVRVZ score, the 22-day RSI, and so on, right? All of these, and you can look at each and every one of them on the right side here. They are linked, which some of those have been going up, and some of those have a progress of 60 or 70%, but none of these has flashed the top, right? So I would say very confident here that based on my analysis and based on these on-chain and indicator metrics, that the top is not in, okay? I would put it that way. So, of course I can be wrong, but I would put the chance on 1% or something like that at the moment. Let's see here. Troy, most of the old timers keep saying October or November for Bitcoin and then altcoin afterwards. I tend to listen to them because they've been here for a few of these, and I only been through one. Yeah, I would see that also happening, like October, November for Bitcoin, and then altcoins afterwards, maybe even into the next year for altcoins. I see that totally, right? I'm just saying that if we were to have a global monetary expansion that goes longer, then maybe everything rallies longer because the correlation is so high. And I would say that I'm still convinced that this is what actually drives Bitcoin at the moment. Here we also have like institutions and everything, like publicly traded real estate giant Murano just announced to buy $500 million of dollars of Bitcoin for their reserves, right? So these are all entering the market, and it's very hard to imagine that just because a certain time kicks in, something happens with Bitcoin and that not macro factors are driving it right now. But of course, I could be wrong. 1 second. So this is a already 2 weeks old M2 chart, right? But we are, and this is a little bit lower than we are right now. So we are somewhere here. Yeah. So you see this dotted line is 108. So we are just above this dotted line here on the upswing part. The black chart is M2 from 2 weeks ago, and the pink chart is Bitcoin from 2 weeks ago. And you see that sometimes there is like an offset of, what is that, maybe 2 weeks even before, where it decouples. No one cares when it decouples to the upside, like here, or here when it holds on longer and crashes longer than the actual chart. But when it decouples to the downside, everyone's like, the model is rigged, right? So if we go here, which we are right now, a little bit off, and the pump happens later, then everyone is like, oh, M2 is not valid anymore. And it will not. There will be a time where M2 is not valid anymore. And that's when everyone's basically anticipating it. So let's say we're the sample comparison group and we're all looking at M2, so we expect it to pump. But once we pump to this level, we're all going to sell because let's just say we see the topping out in the M2 already. So we're all selling here, and therefore it decouples then at that point, right? So it works until it doesn't, right? But right now it's working, so I'm going to stick with it. And given the fact that this M2 is basically pointing towards, I don't know, like 150K or so. Yeah. Let's see what chat is going in the discussion mode. I like it. The ETF approvals of some of the alts like XRP and Cardano hopefully will do the same boost as it did for Bitcoin. What do you think about the old BTC wallet coming alive? I did discuss it quickly in the beginning here. The old, I basically said, sum up 30 seconds, or you can also go back, but I basically said it doesn't matter, right? Even if this person, miner, whatever, sells it all, it will have the same effect or less than Germany selling at, I think it was 50,000-ish or so when it was here. I think it was, yeah, this was here. Germany sold here, somewhere here in this flag, right? And then we still pumped and rallied and no one cares anymore. So what they think right now, what Arkham says, is that it probably was an address upgrade on these old wallets, and that's it, right? And nothing has been sold, and it also doesn't matter because there's still only 21 million coins. Yeah, it really doesn't matter, and people will forget it within 2 weeks after the fact. Yeah, I think the old wallets is PH. He's getting ready for the wedding. I wish I had one of these wallets, guys. I would invite the entire audience. Oh my god, what a dream! Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean that would make me a billionaire, right? But I'm still a little bit far away from that. Let's put it that way. Very far away from that still. Um, yes, I think we could go longer too, for sure, but I hope we still get the same bear market to be able to buy back at lower price for BTC. I do think we will get a bear market. It's also, if global money expansion works, then also contraction works. And I think that it's not going to be an 80% drawdown unless, and this is super interesting, right? Because this is institutions' first bear market. And everyone expects that institutions will, so everyone says, oh, BlackRock has BlackRock bought this and that. BlackRock didn't buy anything, let's be honest, or not that much. What they do is they give institutions a gateway to buy. But these institutions and also wealthy investors, they can also hit the sell button. And for many of them, it's the first rodeo, right? It's the first time in crypto. So once financial conditions are contracting, M2 is declining, then maybe their selling is going to make the downswing also very, very powerful, right? I mean, we have this powerful upswing here. Why can't we have a powerful downswing, right? And then also, maybe they're not used to losing 30% in the matter of a day, right? Which could happen in a bear market. And then now the accelerating factor, why could we? So if we were to drop back to 70,000, that's only a 37% correction right now. Okay, so that would be a normal correction of the last cycles. Even if we go to 200,000 this cycle, I would fairly sure say then we are still going to go back to 70k or so, right? That would be a 70% correction or 64% correction. That would be still diminishing bottom, right? So I think we can be very calm about these things, right? As the power of law shows you how slow the bear market bottom basically moves up. And what could put the bear market in overdrive would be that many people or many companies are driving now this MicroStrategy of Michael Saylor. What happens if they get margin called, or they are bankrupt, or they crash and they are forced to sell thousands of Bitcoin into the market into a bear market when prices are falling. So they are forced to why they have to sell. They are forced to sell, but prices are falling. So the moment the prices fall more, they have to sell more Bitcoin to get the same amount of dollars to meet their obligations, right? So that could trigger a selling cascade like Terra Luna. In Terra Luna, it had the same happened. So this was the crash here for everyone that wasn't around. There was a crash in the last bear market, and in this crash, it happened that so Terra Luna, they had an algorithmic stablecoin, and whenever, like Tether with dollars, but whenever someone bought, they would also put Bitcoin in their reserve, right? They started buying Bitcoin, and then when the stablecoin depegged, they had to sell Bitcoin to balance it out, and they had to sell more and more Bitcoin, but the price kept dropping. So it was until the Bitcoin reserve was depleted at lower prices, because they had to, when people bought, they bought at higher prices, and then Bitcoin was already crashing, and they had to sell more and more until they were depleted, and then still the price didn't peg. So yeah, the whole project spiraled out of control, and that sharp drop off of Terra Luna then already brought other exchanges in trouble that were lending out and borrowing and whatever, right? So crazy times back then. Why shouldn't that be happening on an institutional level, right? It could happen if they set up their Bitcoin strategy wrong. It could happen, right? So I for sure do not believe that we topped out yet, but we all could be wrong. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course we can be wrong, but if we top out here, then that also means either the next bear market is going to be super shallow, or we are going to have a really, really great time still buying more Bitcoin, right? Whatever it is, I take both, right? If we top out here, or let's say we top out at 135,000, and we do a normal bear market behavior, go back to 60K, right? That's only a 55% correction. That would be the most shallow bear market correction that we ever had, because look at last bear market, we went 76%. 76%. That from here, from that top wick, would be going to 26,000 per coin. So either we have to go way higher to have such a drop off, because if we go back to 26,000, massive FUD will be on, because that would mean that the normal Bitcoin, like that would mean that in terms of power of law, we would fall through the bear market support band, which is currently at 43,000. I don't believe it. And also, it would be the first time that we stay below the linear regression fit, basically. Yeah, I mean, we have a small peekaboo above it, but here, I think we are going higher, and I think we are going to go even much higher, and there will be FOMO. And I will wait that out, to be honest, because even if we go to 200K and then we correct 60% or so, it's still better than right now. That's at least my view, and that lets me pile on cash for that scenario. I remember even in this last bear market, Saylor had a liquidation number, but we never got that low. Yeah, Saylor did, and I think he learned from it, because he had a liquidation number that was just under that price, and he could have gone lower and so on, right? But still, I think there are companies that are not that smart, and they might get liquidated, right? My wife does not understand why I'm not rich in this bull market. Yeah, many people don't understand. Hey, you are over 4 years in crypto. You must be so rich. Hide the pain, hodler. Yeah. Um, have you ever talked about the 18-year cycle? Yeah, I don't know, but I can only figure what you mean by that. Um, but probably you are saying that if you would look at the entire history of Bitcoin, which we have here in this chart from August 2011 until, I mean, there's more, right? A little bit more. Until now, you are, what is that? 14 years of chart plus 2 years that are not in the chart. That's 16 years. That's one big fat cycle, and I can only imagine that there must be some people that are saying this is a bull market. At some point, there will be a bear market, which no, I don't support this theory. That's like, and I'm just assuming. Probably that's not what you meant, but that's like saying that. So here we have by the way, it's exactly happening as we said in the last stream, right? This is the S&P 500. We broke out. Probably we're going to retest right now and so on. But that's just saying like, hey, do you know the global bull market of the S&P 500? And put that on the 3 months chart here, right? There are seriously people on YouTube that are talking about the mega bear market that goes like this. And maybe it happens one day again, like the financial crisis in 1928. And probably in 2028 we will be talking about more about this, because then everyone will be like, whoa, what the heck, exactly 100 years after it will happen, mega new meltdown, whatever, right? It doesn't, I don't think that's going, like, I don't think it will be ever visible in any chart then, because that comes probably along with most of the fiat currencies exploding, imploding, whatever. I'd say what is going to happen is that at some point each of these currencies is going to spiral out of control because of massive money printing. Then there will be a currency cut, a new currency will be introduced, and the game starts again, right? For Bitcoin, it doesn't matter, as we would measure the new prices in Bitcoin, and the demand for Bitcoin still would be high, maybe not as high. If the dollar gets replaced by $2, it would be then a low inflation time and not that much demand for Bitcoin, but then it all starts over again, right? So there is no, like, and 1928 nuke would probably come along with a lot of war scenario and so on. So let's just hope that this is far out. And you see how long, like, this is 2008, basically the financial paradigm and how we deal with crisis ended here. Now it's whatever happens, they just print money directly, so it doesn't come to these massive crashes, right? You see, for example, you see the sea crisis, the health, the pandemic. It's nowhere near these crises, right? It's just, okay, let's throw money at it and continue, right? And that can continue for another 4, 8, 12, 16 years. Yeah. Would you sell physical gold for Bitcoin right now? Actually, I did. But it was at around between 50 and 60,000. Still worth it, because Bitcoin doubled, but gold did not. So That's a great question for you, PH. Have you started pricing everything in Bitcoin yet? My brain not that good yet. I still use fiat. No, and this is a problem. I think what we need is we would need an easy way. Actually, I would like to have supermarkets put how many satoshis the price is under the actual price. But then they can't do that yet because the price swings are so violent still, right? I mean, for us, that degens that are in the space, this is nothing. But the problem is if you put how many satoshis that is, and then the price goes down of Bitcoin goes down like 10% in the intraday, they would need, what they could do is digital price tags, and then it switches so that the satoshis are always the equivalent on the USD side. So Bitcoin pumps and suddenly the satoshis are going down. You need less satoshis. That would be interesting for a market or supermarket where you can actually also pay with Bitcoin, because why shouldn't you make use of that if you want people to pay in Bitcoin, right? And no, my brain is also wired on fiat because we use it every day. But I think it will come at a certain point when the volatility gets less. We already see it. We didn't have this bull run. We did not have any 40% plus dips, not yet at least. So the volatility seems to be smoothened away. But I mean, I think that is a very interesting thought to have, right? And maybe we need more. We need apps or something like that that can help us to price in Bitcoin, right? But anyways, guys, altcoins, quick look, and then I have to unfortunately jump. I talked way too long about this Bitcoin topic, but I think it's interesting. On the day we are red. On the week we have some green movers. Bonk 70%, Floki 20%, Tia 15%, 26% on Hex. How about this? Also here some useless Venom Plume. White is down 50%. Wow, what happened? I don't know. But we see the market is not what happened here. Meme core is up 80% intraday. So we see there's still life in the meme coins, in the alts. What I did find is that apparently Hyperliquid has generated 1.7 million in fees in only 24 hours. Bigger than Solana, bigger than Ethereum, more than Bitcoin. Bitcoin generates fees on a regular basis, really nice, but we see some protocols are just bigger or better. Tron base, and then already Dogecoin, which is nuts. That is interesting. And yeah, unfortunately I have to jump right now, but I just wanted to quickly show you that, and I think everything's still coming. Everything's still coming, okay? We will have a great time, I believe. So guys, make sure to smash up the like button. I completely forgot to ask for that, so please smash the like button here, subscribe to the channel, notifications on, and wherever you are on the world, have yourselves a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon. I catch you in the next video live stream. Bye bye.